Oh my gosh. Something's in trouble. The guy's done that! Can see! G'day fellow Christians of the internet, this is the most must-see and subscribe to going here on YouTube, Bruzo Dragonius. You know, basically, in all my videos and that, I've been mentioning this one sort of phrase for some of my videos and all that kind of stuff. Like, I know for sure that I'm mentioning the word Tokusatsu. The reason why I'm making this video is to educate you on what are tokusatsus. In other words, I'm going to introduce to such art of such. To be honest with you, our topic, I believe, has a lot to do with the content that I make on YouTube. Because the fact being is that I know for sure that this video is catering to the furry fandom in the cosplay community as much as the gaming community, and tokusatsu is a part of it. So I'm going to talk to you about, introduce you into this art, as well as discussing what is a tokusatsu, as well as some of the aspects that brought me into such art. But first of all, I wanted to explain what is a tokusatsu. Well, basically, a tokusatsu is kind of like an anime, like as a genre, but however, it is like the modern tokusatsus are basically the live action version of anime. In other words, that tokusatsu are basically dramas that are highly dependent on special effects. Tokusatsus can be in various subgenres as well, depending on what plot that it is. And there are some certain types of tokusatsu, which is the kaiju or the monster movie such tokusatsu. For example, Godzilla. And then you got the superhero ones, which is kind of like Super Sentai, or what we know as in the Western world as Power Rangers. And you also got some others, such as Kamen Rider and Ultraman. Those are the three main tokusatsus that is centered around the superhero themes. Now, notably, what the modern day tokusatsu start off with is people dressing up in costumes, most likely the rubber suit. Most notably, the most earlier work of tokusatsu is the 1950s Godzilla, or the 1940s, where basically it centers around this giant monster, which is Godzilla, destroying a city of Tokyo. The way that they pull off such a fact is that they get the actor in this rubber suit, and what they usually do is that they usually have cardboard replicas or scale models of whatever city for, of course, Godzilla to destroy. And there's some other type of things as well. Like, it doesn't really depend on characters in rubber suits, but also involves a lot of effort in puppetry as well. In case that there's some characters that can't be portrayed by human beings, such as Mothra or King Ghidorah. And those are the examples of such monster movies that's centered around, I think, sci-fi and, of course, horror. The other sort of tokusatsu that I wanted to talk about is the superhero tokusatsu, which is sort of like the kaiju movies, like that is a lot more scaled down. In other words, those type of shows require not just people in costumes, most notably spandex, for example, Super Sentai, or what we know in the West as Power Rangers. Basically, in that type of plotline, you have the villain sending the monster of the week down to destroy or wreak havoc. And then you got the superheroes, mainly a team of 5 or 1, depending on what one. Basically one that's like Kamen Rider, or what we know as back in the West, or in the Saban era, the Masked Rider. Even though that there's one season of Masked Rider so far, and even though that they don't really have this sort of reception and all that kind of stuff, like in other words, a rating. And the most popular one out in the West is, or of course, that keeps on going. And we are now up to the 26th season of Power Rangers, which is based upon Sentai series known as Kyushu Sentai Q-Ranger. I just really noticed that I sort of made a mistake, even upon from editing. And it is not Q-Ranger, it is Kyushu Sentai Ru Soldier, and I mean that. So, anyway, that's what also known as that's later adapted by Saban, which is now owned by Hasbro, Power Rangers Dino Fury, of such examples of the work, where basically all of these is that they have the monster, like I said, with the main villain, coming up with some plot lines of, I don't know, taking over the planet, or probably have some other things such as, I don't know, reviving some girl and all that kind of stuff. And I know for sure that the plot line has to do with the competition on who gets the Sporex Beast, whether it's the Power Rangers versus Void Knight. And it just goes on from there. The first tokusatsu that I have ever watched, around the 90s, as I believe around 97, is, of course, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which is adopted and based on the characters Sentai Zoo Ranger. Usually with the similarities of Super Sentai and Power Rangers is not just the designs of the costumes. That is a lot more similar depending on what season. Also sometimes the footage used, which back in the 90s, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers used some of the footage that is based around Q-Ranger, such as the Megazords, the Zords themselves, that the Rangers actually pilot, and all that kind of stuff. And not only that, but the baddies, the monsters of the week, they're a lot more similar, Back in the 90s, the Power Rangers of the Haim Saban era used mostly some of the recycled stuff from Japan and all that kind of stuff. The other notable tokusatsu that I also been watching as a kid is Beat Bad Beetleborgs, and the other tokusatsu that I've been also watching as a kid is the Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtles, The Next Mutation, where basically that all the turtles plus Shredder and the foot soldiers performed by people in their costumes, even though that they use animatronic puppetry in the turtle costumes themselves, even though which I personally do like. As a kid, when I was growing up, I absolutely loved the way very damn fascinated on what goes on beyond the scenes. Because all I know is that the Turtles, Shredder, and the Foot Soldiers and all that kind of stuff, they're just people in costumes. And the only the only character that I found out that of such as not in the costume is Master Splinter, which is portrayed by a puppet. Now there are various themes. There's various tokusatsus that would suit a lot of people of all ages, of depending on what interest and all that kind of stuff. And you may think, well, isn't it that tokusatsus are something, are actually shows that people made to make toys? Well, the thing about it is that, yes, there are some tokusatsus that are like that. You know, not to mention that even though they're gone back to watching them, the one of them that I am really much into is Power Rangers Dino Fury, which is made by Saban, which is the studio, you know, or whatever. I'm not quite sure. Which is owned like Saban always make every single Power Rangers shows as a company. But I'm very much aware that Saban had been Saban Entertainment, I should say, had been owned by various companies, which, for instance, its own company in its own. Then in the days of Power Rangers Dino Thunder, Mystic Force, Mystic Force is, of course, Magi Ranger, I think. NSPD, which is Deku Ranger. They are shows that is made by Disney, right? But seeing that Hasbro had brought Saban Entertainment, so yeah, I kind of agree that it is based around that, but however, it is a very amazing thing in that, you know, amazing series of Power Rangers, you know, especially how with some amazing suits I do absolutely feel in love, especially with Solon. I mean, it's very elaborate. I can buy into the fact that Solon is a dinosaur, as well. But also, Tokusatsu doesn't have to revolve around such things as Power Rangers and all that kind of stuff. But believe it or not, you know that there is even Tokusatsus of people that fights in mechs as well. For example, that's what Power Rangers is basically about as well, with the Zords. Also with Ultraman, where basically Ultraman is basically about this person that transforms into such and then grows probably about 30 stories high to, you know, to fight kaiju and all that kind of stuff. And for you adults out there, there's also a new tokusatsu called, I think, Gal or something like that. I'm not quite sure. But even before Super Sentai came out in Japan, believe it or not, there is a tokusatsu that's based around a Marvel Comics character that is Spider-Man. Or back in Japan, it is called Superior-Man. And the way that this Japanese Peter Parker transforms is that, well, he kind of puts on his suit and all that kind of stuff. And it's the only Spider-Man series where Spider-Man has a plethora of vehicles as well as a giant mech as well to fight villains. And normally you don't find this in normal Marvel comics as well. So, and from what I heard, there's even a Captain America tokusatsu in Japan as well, which later on inspired another lot of Super Sentai series. I think it's Gal Ranger. I'm not quite sure. But even though that, I know for sure that I'm going on and on about it as well. So I'm just going to get it on from there. If I were to talk about the other bits of the history about tokusatsus, it's going to take a lot longer than that. Maybe in another video. So anyway, I'm going to end it from there. I hope this video would get you more educated about this into your introduction of tokusatsu. Also, I forgot to mention that even shows like there's also animes that is centered around tokusatsu themes, such as like Digimon, Sailor Moon, which is the other one, which has that sort of concept as well. There's some sort of characters that got inspired by the tokusatsu type performance art and all that kind of stuff. Like for example, the Ginyu Force from Dragon Ball Z, the way that they have their poses and all that kind of stuff, and in the way that they henshin, as well. I forgot to cover that. Henshin is one of those terms that means basically transform. So basically to get on their transform from their human form to their, of course, warrior superhero form. You know, Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, and Ultraman is such examples of that. To be honest with you, I didn't seem to write some sort of script. I'm just talking about tokusatsu as, you know, from what I understand of it. I hope that I would bring in the most information that I can to talk to you about it. I wouldn't mind just going over the history of how it is, but or who is responsible for it. But I think that would be like in another video. So anyway, if you do like this video, make sure that you press that like button. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to this video. Even though that I appreciate it and I absolutely love you if you do. Even if you watch it, thank you so much to the end. Sorry about the making it that long, but it's just something that's one of the passion of mine that I wanted to share out to the furry community, the furry gaming, cosplay communities, or those that are interested in my content. The usual social media is on the description down below, as well as ways to give me money as well to help this video out, to help me out with the content and all that kind of stuff financially, just to make it more better. Maybe that in the comment section you can just tell me what's your favorite tokusatsu. Just notice that tokusatsus can also range from anything else live action. For example, over in Japan, shows like Supernatural, Doctor Who, and Thunderbirds is considered as such as well. So you can tell me what's your favorite tokusatsu of all time. If you have one, you can just contribute to the subject as well in the comment section. And if you wanted to join a notification squad or wanted to be the first one to know, make sure that you press the bell icon on the description below, as well as turning on notifications on, therefore that you will be the first one to know. As always, this is the most must-see and subscribe going on, and online ambassador Black Marsh, Bruzo Dragonius, signing up by saying, thank you, you are absolutely amazing, just by watching this video and supporting me out. And as always, I hope that this video would make sense in what I mean by tokus and that. And until next time, may these guide you all. Bye for now.